Hey everybody, this is AubreyS from Brownsville Gamer, and I just want to let you know that I really miss making content for this channel, and I've been pretty busy with my job and spending a lot of time with friends and family these days, so I've been a bit distant from making new content, and I really initially wanted to release this video weeks ago, maybe even a month ago, but with many new things popping off in my life personally, I wanted to take care of that, and now, with all that cleared up, placed to the side, let me finish what I've started. So, I want to start off by saying that this video is based not on the assumption that I am a password purist. Now, if you were to ask me if I like this show, or if I have a personal favorite, I would say two things. First, I do like the show Password. I like Password. As a fan of word association game shows, I've been an avid viewer of the show from its inception in the 1960s with Alan Ludden. There was Password, the 70s revived version of Password. That was the Password All-Stars edition on ABC back in the day. There was even Password Plus with both Ludden and Tom Kennedy right after his passing. There was Super Password with Bert Convy of the 1980s, and the 2000 edition with Regis Philbin with the $1 Million Password game. All of these versions had a uniqueness in terms of gameplay, and hosting all of those types of game shows, each version allowed for the viewer not just to watch, but to play along with the players and their celebrity partners at home. In fact, the game itself sold the show, and it gave viewers the pleasure of wordplay, which allowed the show to have a shelf life of over 60 years. And now, we have the 2022 version of Password by executive producer Jimmy Fallon of NBC's Tonight Show and host Keke Palmer. And from there, the show's panache begins to dwindle. And with that, we begin this review of NBC's Password with this. The password is Gimmicky. Yeah, that's right. I think the game show Password, the current version that is pretending to be just that, a game show. And it's unfortunate because the show's adaptability and simplistic rules of the show, it sells itself. Any game show that functions this way will always have viewership because the game is so relatable that any viewer that enjoys the show can play along. However, this version doesn't really get you there, as it feels more like a show that you would watch on Netflix. You know what I mean. It's like a show that Netflix bought from some producer or distributor or some production company, and it's full of celebrities that would make the show feel more about them than the game itself. It's like a show you would find on Netflix in that clustered universe with all those other game shows, or just shows for that matter, that are dull and generic. It's just taking up space in the Netflix universe. But it's stuck in a streaming dumpster that is Peacock. The service in terms of the content is amazing, don't get me wrong, but the platform app itself is hot garbage. Now I know I'm kind of pivoting away from the initial point I'm making, but just to bring it back, it's a game show that I would watch once, maybe even a couple of times, but no more. And in fact, this review will tell you why. So let's talk about the show in various parts. The set and the audience, the host, the gameplay, my overall opinions of the game, and ultimately share whether or not I would recommend it to you on my channel. So let's begin with the set and the audience. Now I like the set, but it's nothing to brag about. Its classy yet modern design feels appropriate as an NBC primetime night show. However, it feels more like a late night, and it's the Tonight Show, which Fallon revived the game from its segments on the show. So you as the viewer will get to know the set, and you're going to know it a lot as you see a lot of the set and its audience throughout the show. This is different, as it's not done in any other versions of Password that I remembered. This version of Password reminds you that, as it's in right front and center with the studio audience and the camera panning across the audience, showing the set is often done throughout the show. It feels like the show is reminding the home viewer that this show is taped in front of a live studio audience. And that's the issue. The audience is involved in the show way more than it needs to. and it's more of a distraction that takes away from the players in the game. It's good to have them, but the constant camera shots of the audience takes it away from the players and celebrity partners. Now that I got that out of the way, let's get to know the star of the show, Jimmy Fallon. Oh, my bad, I mean Keke Palmer. Sorry about that. I feel like the show has Jimmy Fallon written all over it, and sometimes you tend to forget that Keke is the host, and like the good old days, the star of the show. However, the show comes across as Jimmy Fallon's Password starring Keke Palmer. And given that Fallon is the executive producer, the first episode of the series that I reviewed, the over-animated behavior by him, it overshadows Keke's ability to be the host. I wonder what would be the show if the show was hosted by Jimmy Fallon instead of Keke Palmer. Oh yeah, we already knew that because of the Tonight Show segment where the game was originally played. The show just feels more like Fallon's show rather than Palmer's. And when Keke takes the lead as the host, I see the same thing that I've criticized about Fallon. You see, as a host, Keke's a very animated person, and her demeanor comes off as pretty gimmicky in the show in terms of her ability to be a game show host. Now, yes, this is easy to say about the game, as every person on the show, not just the host at moments, can be overly dramatic, as if I'm watching a drama sitcom more than a game show. Now add that with her overly mechanical gestures as she hosts, and it comes off as a distracting and borderline cringe. And that's a shame, because Keke is an amazing actress and performer, and very enjoyable to watch. And she's capable of holding her own as a host as she joins a long list of amazing female game show hosts, like Betty White with her show Just Men, which made her, at the time, the first female game show host to win an Emmy for Best Game Show in 1983. Mind you, she beat legends like Dick Clark from the $25,000 Pyramid and Richard Dawson from Family Feud. Or even other amazing hosts like Meredith Vieira from 25 Words or Less, and the syndicated version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and even Elizabeth Banks from the revived version of Press Your Luck, which I would highly recommend that you watch on ABC, as Banks plays a solid game show host. Keke can one day stand out as an amazing game show host, but NBC's Password is not it for her, or at least based on the episode, the first one that I saw. Now granted, there may be other episodes that might be better, but sometimes judging the first book by its cover could be something worth thinking about if you're planning on watching it for a longer period of time, watching more and more of her episodes. Now, we're going to transition from the host into the game itself. And what I want to do is I want to separate it into two parts. I want to separate it because it's more practical this way, and also you'll see why I kind of have certain feelings about this game, and I don't mean it in a positive way. So we're going to break it up by the main game and the end game. Now, the main game uses a modified version of classic Password of the 1960s. Players are given a password, and teams will volley back and forth to deliver clues and figure out the password. However, in this edition, the current version, it's the best of 3 games. First to 15 points that sets the landscape of the game. The announcer, A.D. Miles, does the password voice as he announced the words, and players will start off at 6 points for a correct answer on the first try, and then it decreases by 1 point. Now right here is where I have a problem. As a result of the format being the best of 3, first to 15 points, the game moves very slowly. Like, slow. I mean slow to the point where I'm checking my IG feed, checking emails, wondering if the pace of the game will ever move. Now, I understand that slow pacing can be a good thing when you're releasing a new game, and everyone is trying to understand the rules, but it's Password. It's the one show that you don't need to move so slowly given the game's nature. Now, here comes an appreciative moment done by Keke. I like the fact that when Keke is not pretending to be a game show host, that she's orienting her energy to the contestants. It's nice to see that the players are treated as if they actually exist. However, the way that they drag the contestant interaction can be tiring. So tiring that John Hamm on the first episode made fun of Fallon for wasting time in minutes of the game due to his rants about his thoughts of the game itself. Seriously, no one wanted this, and it just becomes another bore for everyone to deal with as the game progresses. No one benefits from this. In terms of elements of the game, one noticeable thing is the low-tech approach of the front game. In the beginning, the original password was low-tech, as the clue givers received their password from a holder with a paper slip. Now that changed as we moved into the 80s with Super Password, with a digital device that displays the password. Now, except for the cashword doohickey where it acts like a toaster for the check that's inside for the player to earn. Now, I'm pretty sure that the $1 million password in the early 2000s used an LCD monitor to display their clues. This version, the 2022 version of Password, however, gets rid of the high tech and decides to kick it off old school. So we approach the main game, and there's a moment in the series, the first episode, the first match of the first game of the series, where a tiebreaker was played. Now, I feel as if NBC knew that people might not watch the whole show because it is an hour long, or even watch the whole episode, that they want to show every single element of the show from the main game to the tiebreaker to the bonus round. Now, what's next? The first ever game of Password that ends with a bonus round win? Well, spoiler alert, that's exactly what happens in the first episode. I know that the first episode is usually the pilot episode, but come on. In the tiebreaker, the game transforms into Password Plus, or Super Password, as players attempt to figure out a password based on 5 clues that Kiki delivers to the players. The player that buzzes in, answers correctly, wins the game, and if a player gets it wrong, the opponent can receive all 5 clues to figure out the password and potentially win. Honestly, I would have preferred to stay consistent with the main game and just give a final password where players will at least get one turn to figure it out. The advantage would go to the player that managed to make the tie, so it seems somewhat fair in this perspective. I don't know. Now, I want to go into the next segment, which really pushed me to the point where I just stopped watching the show all in its entirety, and that's the bonus round. Now, the bonus round plays in the same fashion as Password Plus and Super Password, notably as the contestant and their celebrity pair are playing the famous Alphabetics. Or at least that's what it is, as the new version doesn't even acknowledge that they're playing the game Alphabetics. Anyway, the object of the game in the bonus round is pretty simple. There are 10 passwords arranged alphabetically. The player attempts to figure out the 10 passwords given by their partner in 60 seconds to win $25,000. Now, the bonus round at first looks like the classic rendition, but 2 major things were different from its previous self. The contestant plays with both celebrities. Yeah, that's right. No longer are they bound to just their single celebrity partner. The new version allows you to play with both. One celebrity does one half of Alphabetics, which is 30 seconds to solve as many clues as possible, and then the other celebrity will do the remaining clues in 30 seconds. Now, as I mentioned before, this decision of what they decide to do here with this modified version of the bonus round from what we've seen in the past takes away the pacing of the game, as it now feels, again, slower than it needs to be. Now, here's the thing that forced me to detest the show. Enough for me to just second guess watching another episode. Now, suppose if a contestant makes a mistake on a word. Rather than they lose out on the top prize because they made a mistake, they can get a redo as the host replaces the word with a different one from the same letter, and the player can move back to that letter in their next series of 30 seconds. Now, this just simply sucks. I mean, it sucks because the whole point of the bonus round is to present a challenge to the player, and given that they should be pressured, and if they shouldn't have do-overs in a challenging endgame, I mean, that's the whole point of the challenge. They should not have to feel that a do-over should save them from losing the big top prize. Now, I get why, for a player, this will be a huge advantage for them because they get a second chance at winning the top prize. And the game show looks good because who doesn't like a good game show where the top prize is given away? But it cheapens the rigor of the game and makes the 2-part Alphabetics game seem like child's play, while lengthening the game unnecessarily. And of course, the player wins the top prize because of the change in the first episode. Also, the words in the bonus game itself are way too easy. The words in the front game from the first episode seem to be more difficult than the words used in the bonus game. So for instance, in the main game, you have words like penguin, cornhole, skeleton, and gallop, which can be challenging to figure out, especially if you consider yourself to be a novice at this game. But in the bonus round, literally, they used words like rug, mug, pinch, VMO. Although I didn't know that the game would accept proper nouns as passwords like VMO. Like, what's next? The password is Instagram? Again, very strange, yet too easy for players to win on this show because of the bonus round. So, with all that being said, here's a summary of what I think and whether it is worth watching. Now, the show is like a person that wants to be liked and loved by everyone. It's like a person that wants to be the center of attention at a party, the one that attempts to liven the crowd although no one asked him to do so. And the show gets it done by forcing itself upon the viewer in terms of the presentation, the gameplay, the overly mechanical behavior that just screams fake. The annoying thing about all this is that it doesn't need to feel like it's the Tonight Show, because Password itself is an ageless game show. Since its inception in the early 60s, the show had about 5 different versions, and I'm pretty certain that the new version of NBC's Password will not be syndicated, although I doubt that it would be in the first place because it seemed like the show was plugged in the TV lineup as just a summer programming move. Password is pretending to be Password when it is Password. It's like it's going through an identity crisis as the show attempts to serve as a blast from the past homage to one of the most legendary game shows of all time. By the way, I didn't even watch the second part of the first episode because it feels too forced to just bear in terms of the gameplay and the over-dramatic acting from the hosts, the celebrities, and even the players. The show feels fake to me. Too fake for me to sit through for a whole hour. It is not just a show that I would want to watch in the same fashion that I would want to watch the classics on Buzzer. A good game show will play itself out. You don't need to oversell your gimmicks to people to want to watch the show. Jeopardy doesn't do it, Wheel of Fortune doesn't do it, Let's Make a Deal, and even The Price is Right are more about the games than the inclusiveness of their player interaction that feels organic and lively in terms of the exciting game itself. Look at Family Feud. It allows the contestants, through great hosts like Steve Harvey, they let the contestants be the star of the show based on the way he runs the game, because the players make the show engaging, not hosts like Harvey. In fact, Harvey is just a facilitator of the game. I just don't think that I can just do it to myself to watch this again. However, I would say that if you're curious about seeing a 2022 version of Password and don't want to stay up all late into the night to watch a version of this on The Tonight Show, then take a peek. However, I wouldn't even recommend you watching a full hour of the show, or even watching the second part, since it's just a repeat of the same thing with just different contestants. So, that's it. Tell me what you think about my thoughts of the show. Put your comments in the comments area and let's engage. And if you like my content, please feel free to subscribe and enjoy the other amazing content on this channel. It's been so great trying to get back on and doing this thing again, and I hope you listen to some of my stuff in the future days. Take care.